it is what it is right now. It's June and we have a job to do, and we still got to go out there and play the games. And ultimately, that's what I'm focused on.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's completely free. So make sure you continue to tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Happy Friday. You made it through the week. Congratulations. The Red Sox certainly helped with that, as they did a lot of winning this week, and it is a great weekend coming up. Hopefully the weather cooperates here in New England and you can do something fun outside, whether you're enjoying friends or family, whether you're just relaxing, whether you're watching lots of Red Sox baseball. I approve of it all. Hope you have a great upcoming weekend. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about Justin Slaten, as I did receive a little bit of an update on him yesterday and where he's at in his rehab, as well as trade deadline priorities for the Boston Red Sox. But first, before all of that, Tanner Houck is in the middle of doing rehab assignments with the Worcester Red Sox, and he has certainly been missing from the Red Sox rotation. Really struggled a lot early on in the season with an 0-3 record and an 8.04 ERA, and now he is continuing to make his way back to the Boston Red Sox. He was placed on the 15-day injured list on May 14th from a right flexor pronator strain that ultimately has ended up keeping him sidelined for nearly 2 months. He looked really rough during his first 3 rehab outings, but did seem to turn the corner during his last appearance with AA Portland when he tossed 5 scoreless innings on Friday. And then he made the start for Worcester on the road against Rochester this past Wednesday. And he did look solid during his 4 1/3 innings that he threw. He allowed 1 earned run on 3 hits while striking out 6 and walking 2 on 76 pitches. In the second inning, he hit the first batter he faced before notching 3 consecutive strikeouts to end the inning. First, he got Jackson Clough to swing at an 84.4 mile per hour sweeper on the 4th pitch of the at-bat for out number 1. And then he struck out CJ Stubbs on a 96.8 mile per hour sinker before ending the inning by striking out Nasim Nunez on a 90.7 mile per hour splitter. The only trouble spot that he really had was in the 4th inning after getting the first 2 hitters out quickly. An error by shortstop Nick Sogard allowed a base runner to reach, which was then followed by a Jackson Clough single that put runners on the corners, and then a walk that loaded the bases. Houck ended up getting Nunez to ground out on a sweeper and ultimately kept Rochester scoreless, so he showed that he was able to work his way out of a jam. And then he allowed a single to begin the bottom of the 5th inning, and that was the end of his start. So it's definitely a step in the right direction, but it still remains unclear what his role will be when he's activated off the IL. Given Walker Buehler's recent struggles, he could be a candidate to rejoin the rotation sometime after the All-Star break, or maybe he'll be a long reliever. But either way, he does know that he needs to continue to get his pitch count up. He's working on developing a couple more pitches. And I actually spoke with him after his first rehab outing in Worcester. He was actually going against Max Scherzer that night. They both are Mizzou grads, and he talked a little bit about in the interview what it meant to him to throw against Scherzer and how he's always looked up to him. And he also talked about how he's feeling and his timetable for return and where he wants to be at physically before he does return to the Boston Red Sox, despite the fact that he is really excited about the idea of getting back up there. And with the Red Sox playing the way they are right now, I'm sure that amplifies his excitement. Take a listen to that conversation.
Felt good to be back. Felt good to be out there competing. All in all, the windup was definitely really good today in terms of how I was feeling, felt in sync. The stretch was a little stiff, but for the first one back, happy to be able to get the 2-ups, and as well as in terms of pitch shapes, I like where everything's at. Now it's just continue to go out there and compete. A lot of foul balls in the first inning, not quite swinging this stuff quite yet. All in all, I just happy to be out there and feeling good, feeling healthy. I think it really gets back to the medical staff and how we kind of build things up the proper way, and just excited for the next one out there. Just about the delivery, mainly the stretch, and just how in the windup I always talk about being athletic and how fluid I can kind of be. In the stretch, it's not as many moving parts. You got to be kind of still there for obviously a second, but it's just kind of finding that rhythm again, and just kind of breaking that down, kind of what he saw. It's always good to have a kind of a set of eyes that don't quite see every day, because they kind of look at things a little bit different. All in all, really good though. I felt like the slider I was able to execute the slider with good shape, good velocity. Before it was getting too depthy, more of like a curveball style shape, not as much horizontal. Being an east to west pitcher, if that happens, that's not a good thing. So all in all, just happy with where the shapes are at and where the windup is. By no means complete, but that's why you got a few of these things. I think that's either the first, maybe the second time I've ever thrown on the ABS system. Definitely an interesting type of thing that just kind of run in the background, and we'll see where it goes in the future. Definitely got another outing. I believe that'll be on Tuesday with the Red Sox again. So that's the next steps. I believe Sunday will be after that, and kind of get on the 5-day. As well after that, not really sure. Mainly just worried about day-to-day and continuing to bounce back, healthy, feeling good, feeling strong. So that's really what's next on the agenda. He's been around the game for a long time. I remember watching him whenever I was growing up and kind of going through high school, college. He's a guy I've always looked up to. Being another Mizzou grad, he came back a few times and talked to us at that time. I have the privilege of working out with him in the off season, and just being around a competitor like that, it's awesome. It's such a great leader, mentor, on and off the field, and I feel like I learn a lot every time I talk to him. For me, I got my own cues, but for me, I'll always talk about being athletic, be an athlete on the mound, feel fluid with everything, and I compare everything to kind of like a punch. Like I'm gonna throw a jab, and for me that just works. It keeps me tight, keeps me in sync. Whenever I get big, longer movements with the long limbs and the hypermobility, it kind of gets me out of whack, and I get around the ball a lot. And I'll describe it as like I'm throwing like a big hook versus like a nice, quick, short jab.
What kind of adjustments are you specifically kind of hoping to make as you progress through these rehab outings?
I think first and foremost is continue to feel good, but ultimately just continue to get the shapes right. Location is obviously very key. Working on like a little cutter as well. So there's just a little few tweaks, and especially my delivery. My delivery early on wasn't very in sync, as the way I'll describe it, causing that to leave the arm late and kind of spray some pitches. So ultimately, as long as I can kind of keep the movement small and very connected, that's kind of where I'm aiming for, and just that feel back. It's kind of a short, quick cue that I like to just visualize, separate the feet, and just like as quick as I can get the arm up and get it out front, knowing that, it just kind of, it's worked for me in my brain on how I operate. So I know everyone's going to have their own cues and the ways that they like to do it, but mine's a little bit more unique. It's just, it's what felt right last year. Like I said, it just kind of keeps me more tight and together and in sync and able to repeat it for a long time.
Have you been given like a target return date at all to get back to the Major League Club, or is it just kind of a day-to-day right now, how you feel?
I think it's just outing to outing. I need to get the pitch count up. Being a starter, you can't go back out there with only 50 pitches. That puts a lot of tax on the bullpen. So hopefully shoot to get around the 80, 90 pitch mark, fully built up, fully strong, and then get back with the team and go and contribute. I mean, the boys are playing great ball right now. Great win in Seattle today. Great series win for them. Super pumped to see that, and I want to be a part of it. I love this group that we have. It's such a special, unique group. A lot of young guys that are hungry in their first few years of the big leagues. Even myself, I put myself in that category. I love what I do, and I don't take this for granted. I love this. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and this is where I want to be. I think first and foremost, right now I just kind of need to worry about myself. In terms of the Denver stuff, it is what it is right now. It's June, and we have a job to do, and we still got to go out there and play the games, and ultimately that's what I'm focused on, and I'm focused on getting back and going out there and competing and helping us win. I'm sure down the road it'll hit me a little bit harder, or whatever emotions kind of will come about. But ultimately, right now we all have a job to do, and we're in the thick of it still. So go out there and compete.
So one thing I really do like about Tanner Houck is just the head on his shoulders. He has a really good head on his shoulders, and he is motivated, and he just wants to get back out there with the Red Sox and contribute. And he's taking the right steps to get back, and he knows what he needs to focus on when he comes back, and even in the time leading up to when he comes back. So hopefully it'll be a new and improved Tanner Houck that can either join the rotation or be a multi-inning reliever. But no matter what role he gets put in, hopefully he's able to do it a lot more effectively than what we saw earlier on in the season before he got hurt. But coming up, the trade deadline's coming up. And what are the trade deadline priorities for the Red Sox? Going to be discussing that next. If you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the place for you because it's an easy-to-use website where you can order all kinds of supplies for those skilled trades. And my cousin actually is in the electrical field, so he uses this all the time to get supplies for work, and it's literally a lifesaver for him, and he just uses it all the time. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. It really is a lifesaver. My cousin raves about this site, so make sure you check it out too if you're in that type of industry. So you just heard from Tanner Houck, who is really hungry to be back with the Boston Red Sox. He cannot wait. He feels like it just can't come any sooner, but he does know he still has work to do in the meantime. And when I had spoken with him, that was after he had only had one rehab outing. So obviously he was still gauging where he was at. He's feeling a lot better now. He's throwing more pitches in his rehab. So hopefully not too much longer before he gets called back up and reactivated to join the team. But the question in the meantime now becomes, what's going to happen at the trade deadline for the Boston Red Sox? Because they are at a really crucial part of their schedule now where they have some tough opponents coming up after the All-Star break. And those games will determine where the Red Sox are truly at heading into the trade deadline. Yes, they feasted on teams like the Nationals and Rockies, which 100% is something they need to do to those types of teams. But you need to show that you can compete with the best of the best too. And in the Red Sox case, that hasn't always been the case this season because they have had some very bad games and very bad series. And while Craig Breslow is trying to figure out where this team is at and truly what needs to be done to them and what's best for the future, he needs to see them play very well in these upcoming series leading up to the trade deadline in order to be fully convinced that this team is worth investing in and buying for. So when it comes to the roster right now, if the Red Sox decide to be buyers, what are the priorities? What are the types of positions that they should be focused on? And number one, as Craig Breslow has already said, and the top priority would be acquiring a serviceable starting pitcher. Now, the Red Sox, they aren't one to trade for some aging veteran as a rental because of the fact that Craig Breslow still was hired by the Boston Red Sox to build a sustainable winning team for now and the future. He wants to get guys who can contribute to the team now and later. So most likely, if the Red Sox do make a trade for a starting pitcher, they're going to look at somebody who's on the younger side, is controllable for a few more years at least, so that they have time to work with that pitcher and mold him into their system, but also a guy who is very talented and having a very good season now so that he could be a key piece of the rotation now, because Breslow has made it clear that he believes in the team they have out there now. And with the way they've been playing post Rafael Devers trade, he feels like they can make a run. So for him, he is planning on buying at the trade deadline. If they fall completely downhill and they cannot compete with the part of their schedule that they have upcoming, and they can't show that they are able to compete with the best of the best, that's when Breslow might have to reevaluate and say, okay, this isn't our year. We're not going to go ham and sell off everybody because we still want to keep the guys who are really good, but we see as part of our future. But maybe we trade away some of our veterans, like Aroldis Chapman, for example, is a prime example of a guy who's going to be highly desirable on the trade market because of how strong of a season he's having in that closing role for the Red Sox. And if they don't feel like they're going to contend, he is probably the first player they're going to look to move. But if they are in contention, they are going to need a guy like Chapman to close out games in that pen. So if they do end up selling, I don't think they go and they sell a bunch of pieces, but I could see them trying to flip one of their outfielders. And Craig Breslow has already kind of said when it comes to the outfield situation, we don't need to trade an outfielder just because we have an overflow of guys who are good enough to play every day. Basically saying if they are blown away by a package, they will move one of them, but they're not actively shopping any of their outfielders because they don't feel like they should sacrifice somebody who contributes a ton to the team just simply for the fact that somebody has to sit every day. And I like that mentality. This is a really strong Red Sox outfield, and that's not really an area of need that they should be looking at the trade deadline in terms of their priorities. They should try their best to keep that outfield intact because there's nothing wrong with having options. And yes, it stinks for whoever has to sit out of the lineup each day, but it regulates off days for these guys and makes sure that all of those outfielders are getting enough rest because they're going to have an off day every few days. So from an injury standpoint, that could be a positive as opposed to expecting all of them to play every day. So there's that. But on top of that, too, now you're also keeping guys who are key to your offense, because what would be tough is, say they do trade a guy like Willie or Abreu, for example, that's doing a lot of harm to the lineup. Because Willie Abreu is one of the best hitters in the Red Sox lineup. So you're sacrificing that because you feel like you have too many outfielders. Jarren Duran is another example. He's a guy whose name has been brought up a ton when it comes to the trade deadline. Will he end up being traded? If so, you're losing some versatility there with the speed. His defense hasn't been as great as it was last year, but still serviceable. And his bat definitely needs to improve a little bit more. So the problem there is that his value isn't necessarily as high as it could be. And if I'm the Red Sox, I would want to maximize his value if I'm going to trade him. So there is a possibility that all the outfielders stay. It's arguably the strongest part of the Red Sox roster right now. Pitching for sure has to be the Red Sox priority at the deadline, starting with acquiring a starting pitcher, but also they could use some more relievers to fill out that middle of the bullpen, because they do have their back end relievers who have been super reliable, specifically Chapman, like I mentioned. Then you have Greg Weissert, who generally has been good. He's been overused a lot as of late, so his arm is about to fall off. So in that regard, that's not really his fault. But overall, he's been pretty reliable. Justin Wilson was pretty reliable, but has been kind of hit or miss and shaky as of late. Then you have Brendan Bernardino, who goes without saying has also been really good. Garrett Whitlock has turned some things around after struggling a little bit in some of his outings. But overall, you have generally a good lineup of those back end relievers, not to mention Jordan Hicks, who was brought in at the Rafael Devers trade and is a guy who the Red Sox see as being a high leverage relief arm. They put that out there when they acquired him. They were interested when he hit free agency last year, and he was a guy they've been wanting for a while. They see some good stuff in him that they can work with, and they do see him as being a back-end reliever, potentially a future closer, because, Chapman's not going to be around forever. So eventually they are going to need a new closer, and Jordan Hicks is a guy that the Red Sox identified and said, hey, we like this guy. We see things in him that show a lot of potential, so we want him. And he has been pitching overall pretty well so far in his very small sample size with the Boston Red Sox. But that's another pitcher to keep in mind that the Red Sox could throw into those high leverage situations and probably feel comfortable with it. But things have been dicey when it comes to middle relief this season on this team. I will say as of late, that's gotten a little bit better, and that's primarily because the starters have been pitching deeper into the games. So naturally, Alex Cora doesn't need to use as many of the weaker middle relief guys, because when you get guys like Giolito and Bayo who are throwing into the 6th or 7th inning, now you're just looking at your strong arms to finish it off. That has been key. Or if the Red Sox have a really big lead, so you can throw the weaker relievers in there and it doesn't really make as much of an impact. But the reason that it hasn't been as noticeable as of late that the Red Sox middle relief has struggled is because they haven't really needed to use as much middle relief as of late, because their starters have seemed to click and figure things out and have been pitching deeper into the games, which has really helped Alex Cora, and it's really helped the bullpen to feel more rested. So see what happens when your starters throw deep into games. The bullpen seems to resolve itself a little bit more. The Red Sox bullpen, to me, is an area that they could improve on if they want to really boost their chances at making a deep playoff run this season. But I still think starting pitching is a little bit more of a priority, just because of the fact that Walker Buehler especially has been really shaky this year. And with his struggles, if the Red Sox feel like they want some more reliable starting pitching, they could pursue somebody, on top of the fact that Walker Buehler is only on a 1-year deal as it is. So they might not want to bring him back after all the struggles that he's had. So why not try to trade for a starter who could be a future piece of your rotation as well, to go with Garrett Crochet, Tanner Houck, and Brian Bayo? That is something that the Red Sox should be looking into, and 100% is the trade deadline priority. But speaking of pitching, what's going on with Justin Slaten? I'm going to be giving a little bit of an unfortunate update for him next. My friends and I are notorious for planning things last minute. Literally, it happens all the time. We have no plan even going into the day of the event, and then we decide, hey, let's go to this Red Sox game. Gametime can save your life in those types of scenarios. It always has the lowest ticketing prices, and it shows you the view from your seat so you can make sure nothing is obstructed. I only use Gametime now to purchase any tickets for any event, because I truly do save money using them, and you can still get a great seat for a really good price, even last minute. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It truly does guarantee you the lowest prices. If you are ever looking to go to any live event in the near future, whether that's a game, a comedy show, a concert, look on Gametime because you will not be disappointed with those prices. The Red Sox, as of late, have been playing really strong baseball. They've been stringing together some really good wins, and the offense has been an absolute machine generally ever since the Rafael Devers trade. And it's interesting because right after the trade happened, when the Red Sox were on their West Coast swing, they really struggled to score runs. Could not get runs across, could not hit with runners in scoring position. And it was getting really frustrating for everybody involved. But the bats are exploding, and now they have Yoshida back and Alex Bregman on the way. So things are looking up for the Red Sox lineup. But are things really looking up for Justin Slaten? Not as much. So he has been the Red Sox setup man for a while. Last year and this year, he was always seen as a high leverage reliever, a guy who could throw the 7th or 8th inning and then lead into the closer taking the baseball. But he has been on the IL since June 1st with right shoulder inflammation, and he played catch on June 27th. He's slowly working his way back, but the 27-year-old right-hander who has a 3.47 ERA, 4 holds, 3 saves, and a 171 batting average against in 24 outings hasn't continued with a throwing progression. He is doing plyo ball work in the gym. So Alex Cora said yesterday before the Red Sox game against the Rays, right now he's doing plyos, trying to get the strength back. So that's where we're at right now. On the day that the Red Sox placed him on the injured list, he said he was dealing with a little bit of fatigue and he didn't think the injury was anything super serious. But obviously things are taking probably a little bit longer than he thought they would for him to get back. Asked if there was a setback after he played catch, Alex Cora replied, "I don't want to call it a setback. Playing catch is nothing different than like what they're doing in the gym." So that is somewhat of good news. That's just basically saying, all right, we're going to have you try something else. It's not saying he's taking a step back and so he needs to do this plyo work. It's basically saying we're going to get you to work out in a different way. And that could really benefit him. And maybe that helps to rush his progression and make it go quicker in terms of his recovery, or it could mean that it actually is a setback and Alex Cora isn't really saying because he doesn't want to discourage people. So maybe he's just acting like it's not. That's also a possibility. But the Red Sox ended up transferring him from the 15-day IL to the 60-day IL on June 28th to open a 40-man roster spot for lefty reliever Chris Murphy, who had returned from Tommy John surgery rehab. So obviously the Red Sox don't have a timetable for return for him. And that's definitely a bit concerning because with how valuable Justin Slaten is to this bullpen, we will want him in there come playoff time in order to help make a run. He is the type of pitcher that you want to be around and you want to have in your bullpen if you are going to be a playoff team, because if you are missing one of your high leverage relievers, then you have to try to hope somebody else can fill that high leverage role. And that's never a guarantee with these guys. So you kind of just have to hope for the best, and Alex Cora has to use his best judgment and throw guys in there that he feels could get the job done. But ultimately, because of the fact that Justin Slaten is out, Alex Cora has a constant struggle of finding somebody to throw in the spot that Justin Slaten usually would throw in. So if he's still out and it gets to be playoff time and the Red Sox do make the playoffs, then Alex Cora is going to have some tough managerial decisions to make. But hopefully him doing the plyo work and Alex Cora saying that it's no different from playing catch is genuine and that he didn't have a setback. But the Red Sox do send the majority of their pitchers to the injured list at some point during the season, which has become standard operating procedure in recent years for most teams across baseball. That's not just a Red Sox thing, but it's pretty rare for things to reach the point that they have with Justin Slaten, because he's currently sitting on the injured list with an unidentifiable neck/shoulder injury that will keep him out indefinitely. It's a little bit weird because when he went on the injured list, it was right shoulder inflammation, and nothing's really been said since then about what exactly he's dealing with in terms of the soreness. But it's because the Red Sox don't really know what to call the injury. And I do worry a little bit that they don't really know if he's going to be able to come back this year or not, because nobody's actually been vocal about that and actually said, yeah, he'll definitely be able to come back later in the season. So I worry that the Red Sox are a little bit unsure about what his fate is with this season, and that's why they haven't really given as much of an update. But I do hope that where Alex Cora is coming from is legitimate and that he didn't have a setback. They're just having him try something else, because if the Red Sox are going to be taken seriously as a playoff team, they need to have their best arms in that bullpen. And that's another reason why the Red Sox could look at the relief market at the trade deadline if they feel like Slaten isn't going to be back and they need a high leverage arm to take his place. Then I could see that being an area that the Red Sox do address at the deadline. But if they feel like he's making enough progress to where he can come back sooner, then they are going to primarily only focus most likely on the starting pitching unless they see a reliever they really, really like. But I could see them prioritizing a high leverage bullpen arm at the deadline if Justin Slaten's news comes back that he has more setbacks or that it's going to be longer before he recovers and is able to be back with the team. So we'll have to see what the Red Sox decide to do about that. But I do appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen today. Next, be sure to check out Locked On MLB Game Night, which covers every game every night for the entirety of the season. You can get local analysis on a national scale. Just find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a great show, and it saves you from having to go through and check all these scores all the time with our Locked On experts giving you an update on everything. So make sure you check that out. Next, like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.